All right. Ariel in Toronto, thanks for waiting.
Hi.
Hi.
Am I on?
You're on the air.
Hi, Jen. Hi, Matt.
Hi.
How you doing?
To talk to you. I've been listening to your show for a couple of years now, and this is my first time calling.
Cool. Well, welcome.
And I wanted to bring up a couple things. One of them, I know you have like a little note there that says what my main one is, but my second one was, are you familiar with last-thursdayism?
Yes.
Yeah.
And also the 5-minute universe. It's a thought experiment, kind of tied up in solipsism and epistemology. That you don't know that the universe wasn't created last Thursday.
Yeah, exactly. And with the concept of a retroactive past that actually happened. Right. Now, do you think that would be a good tool to help anti-intellectual and anti-science theists come over to accepting scientific findings?
Probably not. It's one of those things that just kind of generally annoys some people, and my problem with it is that they're kind of useless propositions in the sense that they rely on a hidden appeal to absolute certainty, and exposing that we can't be absolute. Like, for example, what's the difference to me right now if the universe exists as I think that it has for billions of years and I have these memories, or if the universe was created last Thursday with me having memories of things that didn't actually occur? There's no practical difference to me now, and the universe, whether it was created last Thursday or 5 minutes ago or whatever, I have these memories and it operates. It's tied in with so many different thought experiments that are interesting to expose what we do and don't understand, and what we can and cannot prove, I suppose, would be better. But I don't know that they are likely to help people understand or value science anymore.
Well, in my sort of understanding of it, the things that were created in that retroactive past did actually happen. The entire past was created, so everything happened. Assuming that were valid.
All right, that's a slightly different version, but I mean, whether it happened or not. So this is one of the things about generally looking at the past, whether or not it happened, or whether or not we all have constructed memories that are shared that we're going to use. It really doesn't make any difference.
Yeah. Well, my only interest is in sort of trying to get through to the people who refuse to take their children to doctors, or who refuse to educate their children in public school because they think that all of this, billion years of the past of the earth is nonsense. Trying to get them to let go of that, but that's neither here nor there. That's just sort of a thought exercise. Yeah,
I don't know how much value it can be. The type of people you're talking about.
Well, they're not really deep thinkers anyway, so I'm not sure. Thought experiments.
Well, they've been confused about stuff.
Yeah.
It's like. Well, I think the more important thing to do when we talk about science is that there's a contingent of people who have it in their head that science is constantly changing, and that means that it's unreliable.
Yeah.
Because science is constantly telling us new things and revising old models, and that means that it's unreliable. And the exact opposite is true.
That's the strength
it's
of
a
science.
demonstration of how consistently it is improving its reliability.
And they'd rather have a solid lie than a jiggly truth.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the main thing that I wanted to talk about was I'm against, or I should say, I would like to see an end to teaching evolution in specifically public school science classes.
Why?
Because it's a very complex, you could say it's a deliberate, or what's the word I want, a real case of irreducible complexity, wherein it's a very convoluted system of little things that fit together, and if you simple it down so that it fits into a science class for like grade school to high school within the context of all the other things that a science class tries to cover, and the amount of education that the science teachers tend to have on average, and the amount of attention span that the students tend to have on average, you wind up with all these people with these sort of partial, not quite understanding, and not full and not complete understandings of how it works, and that just opens up sort of a gateway for,
How is that not true for math?
Yeah, I was going to say, should we not teach algebra because it's not calculus and it's complicated?
I mean, there are people who are going to find math hard. They're never going to be good at math. They're going to be confused. They're going to fall prey to people abusing statistics and probabilities. They're not going to be able to accurately assess and make good choices. I mean, it seems to me that everything that you've said, for a reason why you don't think we should be teaching this, applies to math as well.
Well, because in simpler versions of math and addition and subtraction and multiplications, all those things have practical uses in the real world. Now, I'm not saying don't teach it at all. I'm just saying don't teach it within the context of a larger curriculum of multiple sciences. Instead,
Why not?
tell them that it's a fact, and here's how you can study it, and here's how you can prepare yourself if you want to study it in university or something.
No. Telling kids just accept this as a fact, I think that's the wrong approach to teaching science. Science is not a body of knowledge, it's a process. And I think it's important when we teach evolution. And by the way, I'm a product of the public school system. My biology teachers were excellent. They gave me a very firm foundation in evolution. I came out of a public school system in Alabama, understanding evolution, understanding that it happened, that it was both a fact and a theory. I was not confused, okay? It is possible to get a very good science education in a public school, okay? So this idea that public school teachers don't know how to teach evolution is wrong.
So,
Okay.
and one of the issues that I have with this is okay. So let's say, for example, just to kind of make this a little simpler, let's say that currently, when we teach evolution, there are 100 things that we teach. And you're basically saying, let's distill that down to maybe 5 or 10 things that we're going to teach, because that's potentially less confusing, and we'll just teach this as fact, and then they can go out and find it later. The current state is that while we're teaching 100 things, let's imagine that those kids, and I think one of the big reasons that they're confused is they're being fed misinformation from religious sources, and so now let's say it's just even, that they're being fed 100 bits of misinformation as well, and this is what's contributing to their confusion. Your solution is to teach them less. So now the ratio of good information to bad information is now more in favor of the bad information, and I don't see how that's an effective way to improve clarity in any topic.
Well, not to teach them less exactly, but to teach them something a little different. Basically, to give them the tools to do the research on their own, to teach them how to study and how to find information, how to make sure that it's peer-reviewed and make sure that it stands up to logic and find the literature for themselves.
Well, they're doing that. I mean, my son's in 3rd grade, and one of the things they're teaching him in science is how to use research tools, like the internet, for example, to do research and find out more information about something.
I mean, if you take 4th and 5th graders and explain to them, I mean, even take something like Richard Dawkins' book, The Magic of Reality, which is about teaching evolution to younger kids, and Aaron Ra is doing some of this as well, producing educational material. I think that giving them an understanding of the subject has to happen before you say, here's what peer review is, and here's where you can go find other resources, and you can on your own determine what you think is peer reviewed and what's not. I mean, I think that when we teach people, we should strive for clarity, we should strive for robustness, and I don't know how you can give them the tools that you want to give them without teaching this. I don't even know how you can teach biology without teaching what we currently do.
Yeah, this is like the cornerstone of biology. How do you not teach evolution and still teach biology?
I suppose there's been changes to the school system since I was in it. Like we didn't have the internet, for instance, and
well, we didn't have the internet when I was in school either. But
me neither.
You know.
Yeah, I had been to several schools in the local system here, and I just didn't feel like the teachers really knew what they were teaching.
Well, there's a lot of things going on with teachers, and we see it in Texas as well, where There are teachers who don't accept evolution and won't teach it, even with it in the curriculum and in the requirements. There are others who want to sneak or smuggle in the bad information alongside it. The solution is to get better teachers and to get better standards and make sure that those standards are enforced. I don't see how reducing the information or distilling it, I don't see how any of those actually go to resolve a problem. If we are producing students who don't understand biological evolution, then we're failing the students, and I don't know how saying, oh, this is just too hard and too confusing actually does anything to improve it.
Well, and I'll tell you, I mean, I think the majority of teachers, especially science teachers, because they've kind of been on the front lines of this for a long time, I think the majority of science teachers do a very good job on this, at least within the confines of legislatures meddling in science standards and stuff like that. One of the things that I think is happening with a lot of the students is that, and I actually have a story I'll tell you, a former colleague of mine from several years ago, his kids brought home their science homework, and I happened to be over there for dinner one night, and they were doing their science homework, and it was a block on evolution. Mm-hmm. And the kid was doing his evolution homework, and his mother was sitting over him, actively undermining what the school was teaching him. And she said, okay, you have to put that answer down to get an A on the quiz, but this is what we really believe. And she would spout off some intelligent design crap, okay? So I think that's a lot of what's happening in some of the school systems, is that you have parents or other people actively undermining what's being taught to the kids in school. So, if they're confused, it's probably not coming from the school. It's coming from outside the school.
And that's something that we can't, that's why I brought up that example of, the amount of good information to bad information in the ratio. It's something we're not going to fix with less good information. One of the things, and this kind of ties into the issues of free speech, is that, when I live in the United States and I value free speech, and that means that I have to put up with people saying things that I disagree with and spreading information that I really would rather not have spread. But this is what you deal with when you're dealing with free speech, and the solution to bad speech is more good speech, and the solution to bad information in education is more better information. I'm unmoved on this particular issue, I guess.
So you wouldn't think that instead of teaching this small sort of simplified segment, to teach it in a separate class as a larger and fuller segment would be a better idea?
Well, I don't know that, first of all, that's not happening. I don't know that. So, like, my wife's got a master's in microbiology, and she's a microbiologist because she loved studying genetics in high school. I mean, so we have experts at developing curriculum, and if they were a little less undermined by agenda-driven school boards, I'm looking at you, Texas. Yes. They would be able to produce curriculum that does a really good job of educating students. When you're in second grade, you learn this stuff. You're not doing, genetic crossbreeding experiments in second grade. You're learning the basics of biology, and you move forward and you progress. But this is all, encompassed in one long string of building on what you learned last year. So I'm all for more electives in high school that cover more things in detail. If our current standards aren't doing a good job of covering, advanced genetic theories, advanced genetic ideas, and you have students that are wanting to take this and have an interest in it, then we should have those electives and give them even more of a head start before they go on to college. We shouldn't have to have a bunch of students who have been undereducated and then they get to college. What college is going to start, given your proposed kind of reduced thing in side classes, if they don't have the requisite information, how are they going to get accepted to universities to expand this?
Mm-hmm. Oh, it's what you're suggesting with making it an elective is not that much different from what I was thinking. I think you definitely have a better idea there.
I'm not advocating making evolution an elective. I'm
No, not evolution period, but the sort of full version of it.
Okay, let me settle this right now. What are the standards right now? What are they teaching that you think should change?
I feel like when I was in school, and this was 20-odd years ago, the portion of the class on evolution was relatively short, and I had.
What are they doing now?
You know what? I don't have kids. I do not know.
Okay, so one of the things I'd say, and I'm not saying this to be a dick, but it will sound dickish, is I don't understand how someone can criticize and come up with a proposed solution to a problem that they don't know anything about and may or may not exist.
Just based on the number of people I see coming out of schools with these weird, warped ideas of how it works.
So there are people coming out of schools with weird, warped ideas, and you've reached the conclusion that this is because teachers aren't doing a good job and this is too complicated and difficult.
It's not too difficult. It's just too much to cover in that short period.
How did you reach that conclusion? That's the question. How did you eliminate the possibility that the reason these people are confused is because there are people who are actively working to undermine this?
I don't think that they're actively working to undermine it, but...
You don't think religion is actively working to undermine the education?
Oh, those people. Okay, yeah, no, I thought you meant the teachers. No, yeah, no, I completely agree there, too.
What I'm saying is that based on what you've said, you don't have enough information to reach a conclusion about the problem or what the proposed solution would be. Because, you know, it's like saying, you know, if the information you're basing it on is speculation and personal impressions from what you experienced 20 some odd years ago, which, you know, isn't indicative, your school isn't indicative of every school in Canada or the US or anywhere else, you know, I think you've managed to lead yourself astray a little bit, and probably the best thing to do is to go in and dig into what the actual standards are, find out what's being taught, find out where the potential problems are, because it could very well be the case that you have insight from 20 years ago, that you have, you know, some special insight just in and of yourself that allows you to come up with a viable solution to this. But what you propose so far, yeah, I'm not down with it.
All right.
Cool. Thanks for the call.
Thank you.
Thank you.